Hey everybody, this is Heidi St. John. I'm coming to you from the Firmly Planted Studios here in Vancouver, Washington. I don't normally get a chance to come on here live because I spend a lot of my summertime out on the road. But this is my friend, and I thought, this is so great. My friend Yvette Hampton is here. Yvette and her husband Garrett are the producers of a brand new movie coming out on homeschooling called Schoolhouse Rocked. And we just finished recording a podcast that's going to air in a few weeks. And we thought, man, this is a great time to come on here and talk about homeschooling with you guys and encourage you. And we thought we'd take some questions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try something new, you guys. And I'm going to be sort of following along on my Facebook page to see if I can see your questions as they come up. But we thought we'd just start talking about homeschooling. I know a lot of you are thinking about homeschooling. If you're anything like me, you're concerned and horrified by what's happening in the public school system right now, which seems like it's getting darker and darker every day. And the library, which, by the way, if you're not following me and my frustration with the American Library Association and what they're doing to children via the Drag Queen Story Hour, check it out. Libraries used to be safe spaces for kids. And now they're not.
No longer.
Now they're not. So we want to talk about homeschooling really briefly. And I thought I'd ask you first, because I know you and I have sort of similar stories. Mm-hmm. Did you ever think that you would be a good homeschool mom?
Oh, no.
Really, I'm dying to know.
No. Since you already know. Oh, gosh, no. We said we'd never, ever homeschool. And God has a sense of humor, so now we're making a movie about it.
Yeah?
We just finished our 8th year, going into our 9th year of homeschooling.
And what got you to consider homeschooling? Because I know that there are a lot of people watching this who are thinking, I would never homeschool. That's insane. What woman in her right mind would be locked up with their kids all day long when a little yellow bus will take them away for free and do the job for me? So why would you go so counterculture and say, no, I'm going to do this. I'm going to take on this ginormous job myself?
Sure. Well, I actually used to think that. I thought, why would I want to be with my kids all day, every day? And then I had kids. And
Changes you.
Had my first daughter, and we had waited 11 years for her, and turns out I actually liked her. And then I had my next one a few years later, and turns out I liked her too. And
it's amazing.
So I really enjoyed getting to spend time with my kids. But we said we'd never homeschool, and God opened our eyes up to what the blessings were of homeschooling, and to the fact that He had given us our children to train and disciple and nurture and educate, and so we took that seriously.
Yeah.
And,
so there are a lot of people that are watching this right now that are going, who cares? Education is just education. It's reading, writing, and arithmetic. But I think it's pretty clear from what's happening in the schools right now that reading, writing, and arithmetic is at the bottom of the list. Like, that's a thing that I just saw a video. I don't know who this was, Loud Earth Crowder or something the other day. And they were interviewing students, high school students and young college-age students, and just asking them to find, like the United States on a map. And a lot of them couldn't do it. I was just sitting there going, what is going on? I had Dr. Pesta on my show last week, and he was saying that kids, when they come out of the universities now, are testing to where kids used to, in the 70s, where they used to test at the end of high school. So we've, in this whole, like, No Child Left Behind thing and the dumbing down of our children, really, we've dumbed down education a whole heck of a lot. And now we're focusing more on social engineering. So to the parent who says to you, I don't think that I could do this, or why would I bother? What do you say to that? What do you say to that parent?
I would say you can't. You cannot do this without God's grace. But if God's calling you to it, He's going to equip you with everything you need in order to accomplish what He's called you to. We can't do anything on our own, have a successful marriage, parenting, anything that's worth doing is hard.
Yeah.
But God's going to equip us to do it. So, you're right. You can't.
So, and I think it's important for parents to know. So, some of the big questions that we get, and I'd love to hear your questions. So, if you have a question for me, put it in the comments underneath this video, and I'm trying to refresh it so I can sort of see the comments as they're coming up. But I'd love to hear your questions about homeschooling. What are some of your reservations? What is it that something that you're afraid of when it comes to homeschooling? We all know what we're afraid of when it comes to regular school, but when it comes to homeschooling. So Jennifer's saying, how do you manage family and relatives opposition? This is a big one. Did you guys have any opposition in your family when you started homeschooling?
We didn't really. Maybe a little bit, but they didn't really verbalize it. We kind of knew that they were like, going to do what? Because both my husband and I hated school growing up. So I think everyone was a little bit surprised when we said we were going to homeschool.
Yeah.
But
you didn't really have a lot of opposition?
Not
so I
too
did.
much.
So I'll answer the question. So I think when Jay and I started homeschooling, most of our family, I'd say almost all of them, thought we were crazy. Mm-hmm. We got a whole lot of the, why would you do that to your kids? What about socialization?
Right.
And I always tell parents, if you're getting opposition, probably you're doing something right. Because I feel like the enemy of our soul wants to keep us feeling like living in this condemnation. When you first of all, I would say, when people come to you and they say, you're going to ruin your kids, or they say, aren't you worried about socialization? Listen, I live in Washington State and we grow apples here. No one ever comes up to a guy with a brand new apple orchard and looks at his little saplings and says, well, I don't see any fruit on those trees. You're screwing up that tree right there. But they'll do that to you as parents. Listen, fruit takes time to grow. And so you don't need your kids to practice their spelling in front of your relatives at Thanksgiving. They don't need to recite. Actually, they do need to recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I take that back. Teach them the Pledge of Allegiance. But when it comes to spelling and all these things, and people feel like they have to put their kids on display, don't do that. Fruit takes time to grow. I have 4 kids graduated from our homeschool now, and I can tell you with confidence, nobody in my family is making fun of our decision to homeschool anymore. And in fact, almost all of my younger sisters are now all homeschooling their kids because they see the fruit in it. So I would say, you know what? When people give you opposition, you can just say, I can see how this is bothering you, but we are confident in our decision, and then just drop it, because I'm telling you what, the fruit will be borne out over time.
Yeah, and people are not always going to agree with the decisions that we make anyway. And so, sometimes a simple, this is what God's calling us to, is what you need to say.
Yeah.
And
so this chick says, I'm sorry, chick, I can't read your name. She wants to basically know, how do you homeschool multiple ages? You've got two different ages that you're homeschooling. Do you do them at the same time, roughly?
8 and 13 years old are my girls. Some of them at the same time. We do some memory work at the same time. But of course they have their different math levels and reading and spelling and things like that. But I have 2. I mean, you've got 7. So
yes,
2's a little bit easier to tackle than 7.
I think the main thing, and I could talk about this all day long, but I think the main thing with multi-level teaching and teaching multiple ages at one time is you teach to the oldest child. So we spend a lot of our time in the morning reading. Mm-hmm. We love to read to our kids. We read out loud to them. We read stories that are really great literature to our children. And the little ones are kind of along for the ride at that point. They're just sort of listening. And as we're going along, at the end of it, I'm going to start asking, I let my kids off the bus. And by off the bus, I mean, if I've got a kindergartner in there and I'm reading with a 7th grader, at some point the kindergartner is going to want off the bus. At some point they're going to get bored, or they're going to sort of check out. And usually at that point, I will say, hey, can you draw Mama a picture about this, or whatever, or color a picture, or, just play quietly while we finish with the older kids. I think that this idea that our kids can't handle being taught multiple ages at once is really kind of a myth. I mean, if it worked for Laura Ingalls Wilder, it can work for you.
Yes.
And so I think don't be afraid to jump in and just, you can teach, certainly you can teach a lot of the sciences. Mm-hmm. When they're little, like kindergarten all the way up through 6th, even 8th grade, we did a lot of the same things. Yeah. We were studying botany and astronomy and geology and all these things at once. And we are teaching to the oldest children, and it's amazing what the younger ones would pick up. When the kids get into high school, they start doing a little bit more individualized studies. Obviously, we just graduated Spencer from our homeschool, so he's our 4th to graduate, and they're doing great.
Yeah.
So don't panic about it. One thing I would caution against is giving all your kids different workbooks and sending them off to different corners of the house. Mm-hmm. I would so much rather see us in doing this thing together in the same room. One of the mistakes I made early on, which I actually wrote about a long time ago in a book I wrote about homeschooling called The Busy Homeschool Mom's Guide to Daylight. So you can look that up on Amazon. So teach to the oldest child. So I think that's probably, Beth is right. The one schoolhouse principle is not as hard as it feels. Yeah. And people tell you, oh, you can't do that. Yes, you can. They also tell you that you can't teach your child to read. Yes, you can. They'll also teach you that that your kid's not going to be socialized. Mm-hmm. Yes, he is.
Can I jump on that real quick?
Yeah, do it.
Because one of the other things that I know a lot of families who have multiple age kids do is they'll have some of the older kids help the younger kids with whatever they're working on. And we've done that. We've got 2 girls, but oftentimes our older daughter will help our youngest one with her math or
Yeah.
reading or whatever it is that she's doing.
Oh, yeah. And that's actually
great.
good for them. I mean, who learns more, Yvette?
Yeah,
The
right.
teacher or the student?
Right, teacher.
The teacher.
That's
And
right.
so if you've got an older child who knows how to read and you can say, hey, will you read with your younger child? All of a
Yes.
sudden, that older child is getting twice the learning
Right.
because they're able to learn right along with the younger one. And
Right.
they're actually going to be learning more that way.
Yeah, and it builds their confidence because then they feel like they're doing something, and it also helps to strengthen the relationship, I think, between those siblings, unless they fight over it, which mine would never do.
No, mine wouldn't either. There's never any fighting that happens at my house. That would never happen. We've got another question coming in, and Jessica is saying that one of her biggest fears was the social aspect, and then she said she found a huge homeschooling community of moms and dads who made it a point to make sure every single homeschooled child in the area was getting the social life. So another thing, Jessica, I would say, I know a lot of people talk about socialization. And Yvette and I were talking about this before. That's my favorite question. So thank you for bringing it up. I love when people ask me about socialization. Sometimes they'll do that on airplanes and I'm traveling to an event. And, oh, your kids are homeschooled. You know, aren't you worried about socialization? And my answer is, yes, I am, which is why I took my kids out of public school. You're welcome. This whole idea that somehow if our kids are home, they're not being socialized, what's happening is they're being socialized in the best possible way. Hopefully they're learning respect and how to respect their parents and how to, if you can get along with your siblings,
Yeah,
you can get along with anyone.
anybody.
It's true.
Yes.
It's true. And so don't let people tell you that, you know, your kids won't be socialized. You're not the goal of homeschooling our kids is not to keep them locked up in the basement and never let them come out, right? So if you want to be socialized, for goodness sake, you know, go outside.
Right.
Get out of your house, go to Walmart.
Yeah, and that used to be the case. I mean, many years ago when it
Yep.
was illegal to homeschool in many states, that was the case where kids were literally locked in the house 5 days a week during school hours. And so they really were unsocialized in a lot of ways. But that is not how it is today.
No.
And those kids, I mean, you know, many of them have grown up to be amazing leaders in our country. But it's not like that anymore. I mean,
No,
it's
it's
homeschooling's
totally,
legal in all 50 states.
yes.
And so you can go anywhere with your kids and
Yep. There's Norma's asking about homeschool curriculum online. She's saying she feels inadequate, so she opted to do online school. Do I have to worry about modern culture ideas coming through the online curriculum? Yes. Absolutely. I mean, we just saw Khan Academy the other day promoting the LGBT agenda. You definitely, the curriculum that you choose for your kids absolutely matters. And can I just encourage you, Norma, one of the reasons that you feel inadequate is because no one has encouraged you that you can actually do it. You can homeschool your daughter or your son, and you don't need an online curriculum to do it. And I mean, we're seeing this across the board. Do you think that's true?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. I mean, Karen DeBuse actually just came out with her Bible-based homeschool program, and she basically uses the Bible as her core curriculum. She supplements with a few books and then has a math curriculum on the side. But she uses the Bible, and she doesn't do it every year. I think she's getting ready to do it again this year with her her kids who are still home with her. But she uses God's Word. And how can you go wrong with that?
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to spend a bunch of money on curriculum. As a matter of fact, our story is long, but when we moved a few years ago, I had to get rid of a whole schoolroom full of stuff, and I had to narrow it down to what I absolutely needed to have. And I had to really pray through that. And it's so interesting that I have needed very little curriculum to actually educate my girls.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you've got God's Word, you can do science, history, spelling,
Reading,
language,
grammar. You can do it all.
So
I
much.
met a mom, and I'm going to get off this question pretty quick because there's so many more questions coming in. But I met a mom not too long ago. She has 10 kids, and she's got 2 of her kids are doctors now. 2 are attorneys. One of them's a teacher in the public school. 2 of them have their own. And I said, oh, my goodness, here's me. I've been homeschooling for 22 years. And I was like, what kind of curriculum did you use? That's always the first question. And she said for the first 8 years, all they had was the Bible.
Oh, I love it.
And she said, my kids learned to read. They learned history. And she said, they're really bright kids.
Yeah.
And I'm always telling parents, listen, if the Lord's called you to do this thing, He is going to finish what He started in your kids.
Yep.
And so don't panic over curriculum. All right, there's another mom who's asking. I'm going to try to move through these questions quickly. She says she's got a child who she's pulling out of public school, a 9-year-old who's angry about the transition. And what can she do to sort of make that transition easier?
Yeah, I would say the first thing that you should do is develop character in your child and build that relationship with your child. Don't jump into doing school as you think school should be done at home, because that's what so many people do. They think it's supposed to look like it looks in the school, in the public or private school, and they bring that home and they want to throw their kid at a table and make them sit down for 8 hours a day and do worksheets and their math and their sentence diagrams, all that stuff. Don't do that. I would spend the first couple months even just building that relationship with your child and let them know that they are important and that their character and them as a person is so much more important than the academics.
Yeah, and I think too, you want your kids to know that you're for them. Your kids are going to be frustrated. Your job as parents, listen, parents, this is really important. Your job is not to be your child's friend. Your job is to parent your kids, and the friendship comes later. And the friendship is a gift that you get when you've actually been a good parent to your kids. And so if you've got an angry child, one of the first things that I would encourage you to do is to assure them that you love them, that you're doing what's best for them. And then I totally agree with Yvette. We want to focus on character. And when your kids, let your kids share with you what their frustrations are. And then just, hey, we love you. So if this is your concern, your word, you're not going to have any friends, we're going to show you how we're going to make sure that you have friends.
Yeah.
And reassure them. There's nothing wrong with coming alongside that child and reassuring them, but you also reassure them that you made the right decision and that you did it for them. All right, next question comes from a mom who wants to know how she can get her 7th grader and 12th grader to actually do their work. Sounds like you might have a character problem on your hands. I've had kids over the years, the Lord's given me 7 kids to shepherd and parent and homeschool, and there have been many seasons when we have not had a very great homeschool year. And oftentimes we have to go back and realize, oh my goodness, I got a character problem. This isn't a you can't do your schoolwork problem. This is an obedience problem. Yeah. This is a respect issue. I had one child in particular that was ready to graduate, and the schoolwork wasn't done. So we let this particular child walk. And then they spent the next 3 months completing the work. So so I was like, listen, I'm not that mom. You're not going to get your diploma until this, and this gets done. So stay in there with your kids. I know it's exhausting. It can be difficult, but I'm telling you what, it will be completely and absolutely worth it if you'll stick in there with it.
Yes.
Yeah, so good. This is a mom who's saying that they pulled their kids out and they're having a hard time figuring out where to start. She's a mom who's feeling overwhelmed. She pulled her kids out of school because of what they're seeing in the school. So first of all, congratulations. Yes. You did the right thing. Parents, I think, feel like they're hostage to the school system.
Yes.
Like, this is the only option I have. We're really sorry that the school is teaching that there's 15 genders and that if you want to be a horse that flies tomorrow, that's what you can do too. We're teaching our kids not fact anymore. We're teaching them to be driven by their emotions, not even by science anymore. We're teaching them a social engineering. So good job on taking your kids out of school. Yeah. Now, the next step is not feeling overwhelmed. So where can she start?
I would say, well, first of all, there are lots of good podcasts. We actually have a podcast. It's the Schoolhouse Rocked podcast that's all about homeschooling. And we have some really good episodes out there. And I just did an interview, and as a matter of fact, you did too, with Jamie Erickson recently. And she wrote a book called Homeschool Bravely. And it's an excellent book. And she talks about all of those things in there. Another good place to start would be HSLDA. Is a great resource. I highly recommend becoming a member of HSLDA. They are your legal backing, but they also have a ton of great resources and counselors that you could just call them up and just talk to them and say, this is where we're at in our homeschool journey. We're just starting. I have no idea what to do. And they will literally walk you through it step by step. And if there's a homeschool convention in your area that has not yet taken place, because there are still lots to come, I would highly recommend going because it is so encouraging to go and see other like-minded homeschool families who are trying to figure it out as well, and then many there who have already figured it out and can be there to encourage you.
Yep, it's so good. Here's a mom who is saying that she's got a high schooler. This seems to be a theme here, that she's got a high schooler who's not quite done with her math, and she just wants to stop for the summer, but her kid did not finish. Again, which puts a strain on the family, can we just be honest? Yeah. Like, it really does put a strain on the family. I might be inclined to set aside some time every morning and be getting that child up early. So while the rest of her siblings are sleeping in and enjoying their summer vacation, you, oh child who I love, who did not do your work, you're going to get up early, and we're going to spend the first 2.5 hours of our day every day working on math. I would be less concerned about getting all the way through to the end of it, because no one gets to the end, not even in school, and more concerned with developing character in your child. Character trumps curriculum every single time. character is what you're after. And so if that means, Mom, that you've got to work a little bit harder this summer, it's worth it. It'll be worth it.
Yeah, let me say something on that too, because one of the things I've learned through marriage actually is my husband and I work very differently. And this is for parents who have kids who maybe are struggling with getting their work done. When I work, I have to have complete silence, total silence. I can't have music playing or people talking in the background. I just can't concentrate. My husband, on the other hand, has to have rock music playing in his ears.
That's
in
my
order
husband
to,
too.
Isn't it crazy?
I'm like, what?
Yeah, when we first got married, I was like, what? How do you even function that way? And I just learned we have different learning styles.
Yep.
And so it might be that your child needs to listen to rock music or, you know, something, have something else going in the background in order to do what she needs to do.
Yeah, I mean, I think what she's alluding to is find out what your child's learning style is, and what you know, your job as a parent is to create an environment where your children learn the best. So we were just talking about on the podcast that we recorded. The culture right now is all about the collective, right? We're not interested in individuals anymore in the culture. We're interested in the collective. We want the collective to believe that this social engineering nonsense is true. We want the collective to get into Common Core, which is garbage. We want the collective to, and we will hold the bright students back in order to assist the collective, and we will falsely push the students who are behind up. As a homeschooler, you have the opportunity to buck the system.
Yeah.
You have the opportunity to say, oh no, that's not actually how it works the best, and we are going to find ways to accommodate our individual children to help them with individual learning styles. I wish I had time today. I don't. There are basically 3 learning styles. There's an auditory learner. These are the kids who learn best by listening to you talking to them and reading to them. There's a visual learner who needs to be able to see the words and read them out loud, maybe even to you. And there's a kinesthetic learner who learns best by touch and by holding things. This is the kid who can't sit still. This is the kid who wants to learn, needs to learn their times tables, you know, doing jumping jacks or whatever.
Or building Legos.
Just they have to have their hands moving. I can always tell a kinesthetic learner in an audience when I'm speaking because those are the women that are knitting.
Yeah, right.
They have to be doing something with their hands, and they can't listen to me unless that's what they're doing. So find out what your child's learning stuff. There's tons of things online to do.
And set up their environment in a way that is useful for them. You know, if they learn better by sitting on their bed or laying on the floor or sitting outside on the porch with the dog, whatever it is that works best for them. You know, cater to that. That's the beauty of homeschooling.
Ina says that homeschoolers don't listen to rock music. Only in our house. I think my Facebook profile says that I am married to my favorite rock and roller. I'm pretty sure that's what it says. All right, we'll take one more question. You guys, these are fantastic questions. I'm going to try to do this more because I can see. Wow, this is a thing. So one of the moms, and I think this might be the last 2 that I take. She's saying that she is really struggling with her own quiet time. Like she's like, I am just worried if I take on this homeschooling thing, I'm going to lose myself. And that's a pretty real, I actually really appreciate that you said that. Yeah. And so what do you say to the mom who is saying, I like having my kids in school. Like I understand that they're being taught backward, upside down. I'm having to undo it every day when they come home from school, but I'm so worried that I'm going to lose myself in the process. What do you say to that mom?
I say that, yes, you will lose part of yourself in that, and it's worth it. Your kids you're in your home for such a short time. I mean, I cannot, and I know you can attest to this even more so than I can because you've got 4 adult children. I have a 13-year-old and an 8-year-old, and I cannot believe that my 13-year-old is already 13 and my 8-year-old's already 8. I mean, it's going by so quickly. And so the time is going to pass so quickly, and you'll have time again. And it might be 20 or 30 years from now, but the time that you spend with them is worth it. And so, yes, you will lose part of yourself. But also, you know, if there's dads listening to this, I think it's so important for dads to come alongside their wives and give them a break. Or
encourage your wife.
Or mom, you know, grandma or a neighbor, someone who can give mom a break every now and then.
I think Joy is agreeing with you. She says, yes, you do lose part of yourself, but I love homeschooling. I wouldn't have it any other way.
No regrets.
You know what? When you lose yourself, you will also find yourself. Right. And you're going to find so much more than you ever gave up. Last question comes from a mom who's saying that she doesn't know what to do about preschool. And so here's my advice. Don't do anything.
Yes. I could not agree more.
Don't do
Let them
anything.
play.
What is this? You guys, kids learn through play. This is garbage, this idea that we have to start our kids on some sort of curriculum when they're 3 years old and we're already teaching them a foreign language and you got to know the planets. No, I mean, one of the things I love to talk to parents about is something I call the wonder years. Mm-hmm. This is like ages, 1 to 7 or 8, when your kids hopefully are just enthralled by the wonder of creation around them. They look up in the sky and you can say, look who did that. God did that. Yeah. Those are the stars and the planets, and you build on that natural curiosity. Yes. I was just going to say go to the library, but don't stay away. You can build on that natural curiosity and just love your kids. And it's also before they wonder if you know what you're talking about. So these are the wonder years. It's a win-win-win. I had a mom ask me a couple of years ago. She was all frustrated and crying. I was sitting on a panel, and she's like, I think I've wrecked my kid. He's not reading, and I feel like I've ruined him. My heart is going out to this woman. Because I'm
Was he like 5?
Yeah, because I'm thinking she's got a 12-year-old boy who can't read. And so I was like, it's all right. Don't cry. How old is your son? He's 4.
Oh, no.
I was like, okay, the grace has run out. Sit down. You have a 4-year-old child. So here's what you do. Moms, dads, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You go out in the backyard and you push over the heaviest object that you can find, and whatever crawls out from underneath it, Google it, and you're done.
Yep.
Like, oh my goodness, look at that thing. If you're in the South, what could crawl out from underneath it? That's a copperhead. Well, stay away from that. That thing is poisonous. The idea is that we're teaching our children to be, to love, to learn. Mm-hmm. And all of this, all of this push toward preschool and all of this early learning, you're just sucking the life and the joy of learning right out of your kids. Go play with them. Yep. Put down your phone for the love. Put down your phone. Go to the zoo. Or if you can't afford a zoo membership, take a walk with your kids. These are the years you will never get them back. Yeah. And so enjoy it.
I agree completely. And I would say the only thing besides letting them just explore and play and be kids is read to them.
Yeah.
Read. Just read good books. There are so many good lists you can just Pinterest it or Google it.
No, stay off of Pinterest. I'm mad at Pinterest.
Okay. Oh, do we not like
takes
Pinterest
it back.
now?
No, we don't.
Okay, never mind. Don't go on Pinterest. But there are a ton of good Christian homeschool blogs that have book lists that you can, find great books and read to your kid. Just read to them. Yeah. Read to them, listen to music, let them play, let them explore.
Mike Mulligan and his steam shovel. Red Sails to Capri. What is that? My Father's Dragon. Oh my goodness, you guys. So many great books you can read to your kids. And your kids, and not only that, you're reading to them, you're wetting their whistle for learning, but you're also building relationship in the process. And it is you guys, listen, the culture is gonna strip down motherhood to little more than a stopover on the highway of life, right? They're gonna tell you that when your kids are 5, send them to school. Yeah. And thank you very much for playing, Mom and Dad, we can take it from here. And they're lying to you. Yes. Motherhood is an investment. And what you're doing with your kids right now will yield dividends for generations to come. And so take your kids out. Take them out of public school. Bring them home. You can do it. There's a whole bunch of us that would like to help. You guys have an awesome homeschool documentary that's coming out next year called Schoolhouse Rocked. And I will link back to this in the comments today. Yeah. And we'll also link back to your Facebook page so you guys can follow them. But there are so many great homeschool organizations out there. Find your local state homeschool organization and join them. Get involved. Go to a homeschool conference. You guys, homeschooling will be the hardest, best thing that you ever do.
Yes, I agree completely.
Yeah. Yvette, this has been fun.
Yes, this is fun.
Sort of our we should totally do, we'll do this more. You guys, if you have questions, keep them coming on here. I've got some people that help me with this page, and we'll try to help answer your questions. In the meantime, we just want you to be encouraged. Motherhood is worth it. Homeschooling is worth it. The investment that you're making into your kids right now is absolutely worth it. And you can do it. You can do it.
Yes, they can.
All right. Thanks, you guys, for tuning in. We'll see you again.
Bye.